So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today we will have our first virtual tour of the semester, and it will be hosted by our beloved senior coach Louise Van der Horst from the Netherlands. So, welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. If you can go ahead and share the presentation.
Just wait a minute. I think I started from the middle of it, all right? There you go. Okay.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to this meeting and to be able to listen to my virtual tour of Alkmaar. My name is Louise and as Rafael said, I'm one of the senior coaches. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is the introduction slide, but this is actually a slide of, go back one, please. This is actually a slide I made in 2020 when I first gave this tour. At that time, I was a participant, and I remember how nervous and how excited I was to give this tour. So I'm very happy to do it again. And I'm also, together with Nudja, involved of organizing it the rest of the semester. And I'm hoping some of you will later in the semester also share a little bit about the place you're from. And Raphael will send an email about that later in the semester. So now let's go on to the agenda. Right now I'm in university, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my university, the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Then I will just tell a little bit about the history of Alkmaar. And after that, I will give a virtual tour of the Oude Stad. Okay, so you can see pictures about my university. I go to the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. I'm a first year law and society student. So you can see a very big and high building. It's built of concrete because that was a very common way to build in that time. It's very functional and it's very high, and that's because the land is pretty expensive in Amsterdam because it's like a very densely populated country, so there's not much space. So that's why the buildings here are very high, so you can save for some space. And you can also see the inside of the building, and you can luckily see a little bit more color in there. You can also see that on the outside of the building there is the logo. And this is a griffin. And that's a combination of a lion, an eagle, an eagle, and a horse, actually. And it basically symbolizes the three area of science, alpha, beta, and gamma. And the rings stand for Vrije Universiteit, which means free university. And it looks back because the university has very rich history that they are very aware of. And the legs are firmly on the ground because it's a university grounded in reality. And then now we move on to the part I got a lot of questions about and people find very important. And that's the food. So we have one main cafeteria that has a lot of different options from pizzas, but also salads. And you also have a bar, which is more like a cultural setting. And that's like, you can see it's still a design because it's being built. As well as there is going to be a very new restaurant. And it's actually very exciting because they actually asked the students' input on how it should be built. So that's really a great place for the students. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And this is more an overview of the campus. So in the Netherlands, students typically don't live on campus. They need to search their own housing. That also means our campuses are a little bit more compact because most of the buildings are related to learning. As you can see in the map, the orange buildings are related to learning, and the pink buildings are the university hospital. And you also see a picture of the outside, and that's the square in the middle, where you can basically go eat in the summer when it's good weather and it doesn't rain. And in the yes, I want to share one last thing on this slide, and that's you see the overview of basically the part of the city. And after that, you have behind the buildings, you have the Zuidas. And this is the part where all the big law firms are located. And that's very interesting for me as a law student, because that means we have a very good relation with them and we can go visit them or even have like lawyers give guest lectures. So when we go to the next slide, we can see my favorite building, and this is the new building. It's built in 2020, and it really combines like entertainment and learning. And I think it's very important to also sometimes just relax and not learn all the time. So it's also very light, because there's a lot of glass and there's natural light, which makes it a very calm place. It's also very innovative in the using of spaces. And you can see in the middle, there's a big cinema room. And during the day, it's a lecture hall, but in the night, it's a cinema. And they actually got a local company to host the cinema, and also they have volunteers. There are also sometimes art expositions in the building. So it's like really very interesting. So let's move on to the next slide. And of course, I can't forget the law building, because it is the building I spend the most time in as a law student. And we have a lot of law students. We have a very big group, so that's why they need their own building. And it's quite a new building, built in 2010. And it's, again, very functional. Okay. And this is a view of the Zuidas, so where the law offices are located from the station. And this is basically what I see when I leave to go home. And I always really like that view, especially in the dark with all the lights. And that's also the way I want to end this part about my university. So are there any questions about my university?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, so you mentioned that your campus is like very like close to various law firms, etc. So does that mean that have you ever like had the opportunity to like go and visit like the court as well, like for like field trips, etc.?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, there is a court located like at, you can walk to it within 10 minutes. So I went there once to like watch a court case, and that was like very interesting. So yes, you can do that. You can just like fill a form in and say, I'm a law student, I want to watch a court case, and they will reserve a spot for you.
That's really cool.
Any other questions?
We have one Q&A section by Anonymous. What is your favorite memory?
That's a great question. I think it's gonna be, we always have these big introduction weeks, and then you are going to have a lot of different activities. And I think it's the way when we basically had a lot of free time, and we also had some students that were new to the country. So we're just going to explore the city, going to eat somewhere, and like even go to a theater show together. So that was like a really fun bonding experience with my classmates.
So it's basically when you don't have work and you meet a lot of people and have fun, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
university is more than just learning. It's also about the memories you make and the people you get to know. That's always also very important. You
actually
make
for
con you
yeah,
make connections you need later in life. So
yeah, actually I agree with you, and it's not that it's not I think it's the most important thing actually. For me at least, the people that I met and how I interact with them, that was most important special thing that happened to the in the university. So I agree.
yeah, thank you for that question. That was a very good question about my favorite memory. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I will move on to the city where I live in, and that's all.
Also, if you guys uh, have any comments, feel free to send in the chat as well. Okay.
Yes. So now I will start with just giving a very brief history lesson about Alkmaar. The first mention of the name Alkmaar was in the 10th century, and at that time it was called Alkmaria, and it were like a couple of farmhouses surrounded by water, and it became a city, and it got its city rights in 1254. So then it also got permission to like build a wall to protect itself. So you can see a very old map of the city. Nowadays it's like a lot bigger. What's also very important to know is that in 1573 the city was under siege by Spanish troops. So all the people were blocked in, and ultimately they won the battle. And they won in the most Dutch way possible, using water to the advantage, because they decided to, the surrounding area of the city was flooded with water, so the Spanish troops had to flee from the water. And I think it's a very like funny tidbit also, because enemy is also sometimes, the water is also sometimes known as the enemy of the Dutch people. However, they have also really learned how to control water, so it's also kind of a friend to the Dutch people. And people who live in Alkmaar are very proud about this victory. We celebrated each 8th of October, and there are a lot, especially older people in Alkmaar, who will really tell you about it, and also give like tours, and will also go around the remains of the old wall and tell you all the stories. Okay, so now we're going to move on to a specific part of the city, and this is called the Oude Stad, which means the old city. And this is basically the part of the city that was in a time when it was like a very important trade city. This were all the warehouses were here located, and also the merchants lived here. And the buildings are very detailed and elaborate because the merchants wanted to show their wealth. So again, this is like a part where there are a lot of decorations that are not necessarily functional, but just to show their wealth. So now I'm going to take you on a tour through it. So we're now entering the city, and again, you see a lot of water, and you're gonna see a lot of water in this tour, of course. So let's move on to the next picture. And this is the bridge where you enter the old part of the city. You can see the houses along the canal, and these were warehouses where the goods were stored in, and later they could be sold to the rest of the country, but also the rest of Europe. And you can also see, now you can see the entire bridge. And this is so you can like enter the old city with this bridge. Okay, and so this tower is not actually located in the old city, but it is very important. It's called the Waagtoren. And that basically means scale buildings, a scale to weigh things. Because Alkmaar used to be a very big cheese city. They had like a very big cheese market. And in that time, you needed basically the right to own a scale so you could weigh all the cheeses and determine the prices. And it's so important to the history that every Friday, only in the summer when the weather is good enough, they still have like a kind of simulation cheese markets for all the tourists. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about one of the older buildings, and this is the house with the bullet, huis met de kogel in Dutch. And it's a wooden house, and if you look very closely, you can see a fake bullet. And that is because when the battle with the Spanish was, they had cannons, and a cannonball actually hit this wooden house and like shattered the walls. But it got repaired, and it's also like kind of a building of resiliency because it got rebuilt. And it's also one of the only two wooden buildings still existing in Alkmaar because of fire risks. It's actually banned to build wooden buildings there anymore because it's just too dangerous. However, this one can stay because it's so important for history. Yes, and this is the cobblestone street. It also kind of serves as a warning if you're ever going to a historic city center in the Netherlands, don't wear heels because it's like a very like rocky surface and very hard to walk on with heels. I know from experience. So, and here you can like really see the streets, and you can see on the right there's a jeweler. There are also clothing stores, and this is also the part of the city where basically the business owners are very proud of this piece of the city. And you can also see the Christmas lighting already. And I want to say, I took these pictures in October, so it's like very early in the Netherlands that there were Christmas lights. So that really shows that they really value how the city looks, even at night. And again, you see more shops. And that's also because it is also a part of the city where there are one-of-a-kind unique shops you wouldn't find anywhere else. There are no chain stores located here. The big chains you can find elsewhere. So it's really what you can buy here, you can't like really get it anywhere else. So it's also great if you want a very unique souvenir. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Thank you. And here you can also see some greenery because there's kind of a trend going that is more like an urban park kind of feel. So there is also like bricks, but also greenery. That's very important. And again, you can see it, and you also see like the green doors and the yellow. So it's like really colorful. And of course, you can see a lot of bikes because it's Netherlands. Okay, so this is a very unique store I want to highlight. This is a store that sells sweets, but it's also kind of a museum because it sells like very old Dutch sweets. And it also sells my favorite snack, Dutch. And that's like a waffle with caramel in between. Especially when it's warm and freshly made, it's so delicious.
Oh, we have a question from Aidan. What's your favorite thing at the shops? I think you already answered, right? So your favorite thing it's
Yeah,
can
at this store, it's stroopwafels, it's called.
oh, okay.
The cookies. But what I like about the stores in general is that they all sell like really unique pieces that you can't get anywhere else. So if you buy, for example, a dress, the chance that somebody is walking in the same dress is very, yeah, like small. And when you buy a dress at a large chain store, sometimes, especially in Amsterdam, like then the whole class is like wearing the exact same thing. So I like that if you buy something here, it's unique. And back to the street shop, you can also see it has a very unique roof and like very antique bricks and like an old steel sign. And this is again a very unique store. It's very colorful and it like sells Afghan art gallery. It's called, and I really like that because you have a lot of diversity. And this is the restaurant my sister owns. It's a vintage store and restaurant. It's like a vegan restaurant. And it's like very unique because you can buy all the furniture and all the things inside as well. So if you're like eating at a table and you're like, oh, that's a nice table, you can buy the table and take it home with you.
And also we have free Wi-Fi, right? I see it in the left here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, there's actually free Wi-Fi in the whole city center.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And you can see here cows, also a very Dutch thing, but that's because it used to be a butcher. And I found it very funny that there is now a vegan restaurant and then you have cows on top. But also because it are like monuments, these old buildings, you can't like really change a lot of stuff. So you can't like decide I want to paint the walls purple or anything like that. You need to get permission and it needs to be like if you are going to renovate it, you need to ask permission for the colors that you're gonna use so that it keeps its historic view. Okay, you can go to the next one. Yeah, so one more picture and you can also see the very colorful flags. Yes, and this is another store and this is a grocery store. And it's from Albert Heijn and that's a very big chain in the Netherlands, and it's actually the third store in the whole country, and it was built around 1900. And if we go to the next slide, you can see some more details. You can also see the tiles in blue, and that's called Delfts Blauw. And that's a color from another city in the Netherlands. And again, you have more details. If you look very closely, you can see the face of a woman. And again, you can see the gold letters and more details again. And of course, the bike rack because it's Netherlands. Okay, and the next picture shows the canal, and there are lots of mini boats because people, when it's good weather in the summer, go with the boats through the city because you can really get a very nice tour of the city that way. It's also very cool because there is also a bell and you can ring it and then somebody comes with ice cream.
Uh, one question.
Yes.
I don't see space aside the on the right side of the cars. Do we have a road there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, very small and narrow because again, like space is limited and this part of the city was built before there were cars. So it's actually not really equipped. It's not to have cars. Like there are cars, but it's not ideal.
Okay, but the driver has to be experienced, right? Because it's not a very big space to even park the car. So that's crazy.
You're scared the car will land in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Dutch people are used to that. Everywhere is water. I think, yeah, there might have been a car once in the water, but it doesn't happen that often. So this is a picture I took at another time when it was snowing and I was there, and I just wanted to show it because I thought it was really beautiful. And also there is ice because it was frozen, so you can go ice skating there. And you also see the bike because even if it snows, people are still going to go biking in the Netherlands. That's not a reason not to go biking.
Oh, is it not dangerous to ride bike?
Well, a little bit, but if you know how to do it, like I've done it before, you just need to be very careful and
Oh,
very
but you
slow.
don't ride a bike, you just slide, right? Or
No, you can ride a bike just fine, and also like the country knows it, so they actually sprinkle salt,
oh.
so it's less slippery because they know otherwise bikes are going to fall. And here you have another roof, and you can see it has like two staircases and like this very pretty windows.
Oh, we have a question from Stefania. Do you like the architecture in the Netherlands?
Yes, I do like the architecture, especially of this period. I think it's very nice. I think later periods it's sometimes like really functional. You said that like you saw that at my university building. It was like very like functional, and I don't like really like it. I like when you have like these small details that tell a story. Yeah, and again, I was talking about the details, and here you have a lot of details again. Yeah, and more, and you have like some other details again. You can go to next. Thank you. And again, this is like a very beautiful yellowish color. And this is like newer, but still in the style. And this is actually like made as a some of the towers from the old wall look like this. And you can also see this featured in the flag of Alkmaar you saw at the beginning of the presentation. Yeah, and again, this is like zoomed out of one of the buildings, so you can see all the nice bricks again. And yeah, I really like this building as well because it like looks really old, and it also looks like there hasn't been done much to it, so it like still looks kind of as it was before, not very renovated. Okay, so as I said before, that everything is very narrow here, and that also means the stairs. And it also used to be warehouses. So how are you going to get goods, uh, the goods up to the second floor? Well, you can see actually a hook, and then you just like tie a rope, and then you're just going to pull it up. And nowadays, it's used when people need to go moving, and for example, like need to put a couch inside their living room. Then you just do it through the windows because otherwise it's not gonna fit. Yeah, and again, you can see hooks because a lot of the buildings have hooks like these. And again, like the greenery, you can see this also a very nice looking corner with all the greenery. More greenery. And this is also, this is the most green street. And you can even see a bike almost like swallowed by all the leaves. So I really think that's a very funny picture. And again, there's also a part of the city where the people are like very proud of the city, so they have a lot of flags hanging. That's not really something you do commonly in the Netherlands, flags hanging, but in this part of the city it is. And here you just have like some very colorful flags to cheer up this part of the city. Yes, and this is the view from the bridge when you're leaving the city. And again, we are back to the bridge where I started. And I've shown you around the old city. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. And please feel free to ask any questions you have.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luisa. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so like, do we have to pay for the boat riding? Like, do we need to rent the boat, or it is free, totally free to travel?
Um, you have two options. You can either rent a boat and you need to pay for that, but they also have like one boat which gives tours. So that's a larger boat, and you need to just pay a few euros, and then you get a whole tour. And then also somebody is going to tell you, oh, look to this building over there, right? So
Yeah.
you can either go exploring yourself, or you can go on a guided boat tour.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question? Uh, you mentioned many parts of the city. Which one is your favorite?
My favorite part of the city is like the street with all the greens I showed you, because I think it's so beautiful, and also the flags, and it's like I also think it's very a romantic part of the city.
Okay, we have another question. And now it's Camila Lacerda. How can I give a tour of my city? Oh, this was actually, as Luisa said at the beginning, maybe you didn't join yet, but um, we'll open the virtual tours to the students so they can host their own city or their own favorite place in the practical phase, okay? So whenever we start the practical phase of the program, we'll send you a message and ask students if they want to host their own virtual tours, okay? So make sure to stay with us till the practical phase and make sure to pass your exams, okay? Is there any other question? No? So I will just share my screen so we can talk about the exams that you guys have to do, right? So let me share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So guys, for this week, you are supposed to work on week 2, the global virtual teams, okay? So as I said at the beginning, you guys are supposed to do exam 2 and submit it before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Okay, so make sure to read, watch the videos, and do your exam. Also, I will share with you the week 3 training materials. By the end of this webinar, I can share with you all in the website, so you can just enter the website and the week 3 will be there. Okay.
Um, Before we end, Raphael, there's one question and there's one like comment of appreciation for Luis. So Luis, could you just take a look at that? So somebody asks if there are many tourists in your city. So
Yes, I can answer that. Yeah, normally there are like a lot of tourists in the summer. It gets like very busy, so busy that when you have the cheese market every Friday morning, I would not recommend going near the city with a car. And I also kind of avoid the city center around that time because it gets so busy.
All right, that is really cool. And one last thing, there's someone saying that the virtual tour was amazing. So yeah, I truly resonate with that. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for hosting, Louise.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the nice comments. And also thank you for Nudja and Rafael for helping me prepare for it.
Thank you to Lisa. Is there any other question? It can be regarding the program, the exams. Is everything clear? Is everything okay? Okay. And I assigned a couple of coaches to you guys. So they already sent you an email introducing themselves. So if you have any questions, you can contact them as well. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Next week, we will have Gincana with Tejas. He will talk and have a couple of questions for you guys regarding different cultures, okay? So make sure to join us next week.
Oh, we have a question, Raphael,
Okay. Where?
in the
Oh,
chat.
I can't speak into the microphone, so right. I have throat surgery in this exam. Can I open the link start doing today? Right. Yeah. As maybe you didn't join us earlier, but for the exams, you have 1 week, almost 1 week to do the exam. So you can start for next week. Okay, maybe you can start on Tuesday and do one question and you feel tired. That's not a problem. You can just do not submit the exam. You can close it and start again tomorrow or uh, by the end of the week or by the weekend. So even as long as you don't submit the exam, you will be able to open again whenever you want. Okay. So your progress it will not be deleted and it will be saved to your exam. So just make sure to submit it before the deadline. Also, if you want, you can take the exam while reading your training material as well. Okay, so you can do that as well. How do I know who is my coach? I haven't got any mail. Okay, just let's wait a little bit so I can check. If you didn't receive an email, the coach will probably get back to you by the weekend. Okay, just be a little patient because they also have schools like you, so they might be busy. Okay, so just let me check so I can make sure that you have a coach. Okay, 1 minute, please.
Also, one thing I would like to add, don't forget to check your spam box. Like, you can check it if it is there or not.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was saying them just to check their spam box if it was there or not.
Okay. Uh, what's your email, Juliana? Can you type in the chat, please? No, what's your email? What email did you use for X Culture? So I can check who is your coach.
I think it is Ishika.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's Ishika. I will check with her if she had time to send you an email. but I'll make sure that she will contact you. Okay. So that's it for today's, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to contact your coaches, and also feel free to send an email to academy@x-culture.org. Okay. So thank you. See you next weekend. Bye bye.